There's a point in time when people just realized the major problem with WWE is that one man is ruling them all, and that man is Vince McMahon, and pretty much everything he says goes.
Yep.
You could have a great idea or a shitty one, but he's the last word on it.
It doesn't help that this man is also the man who created stupid ass gimmicks like Bastion Booger and shit like that.
Yeah,
So we have that guy in charge. Woo.
But and not to take credit away from the fact that he's made some excellent stuff.
True.
As far as wrestling goes, but still, it's gotten to the point where he's too old, maybe.
Yeah.
Too old and too
Stubborn.
separated from reality. Yeah. And yes, definitely stubborn. And of course, now his brood, namely Stephanie McMahon, has taken on those attributes as well. And we'd be foolish to deny that Triple H, whatever you might feel about him, is probably the guy that might feasibly save the product. Because, I mean, just look at NXT.
Yep.
And him riding the ship on 205 Live to critical acclaim, apparently. So, that's our hope. But the question is, what if Vince McMahon croaks?
Yep.
Hopefully.
It's never going to happen.
Clearly he's immortal.
Eternal.
Clearly Gangrel fucking sucked on him, passed on the vampire gift.
Yeah, he did.
That dude's never going to die.
Explains why he's getting more bloated, too. Freaking Gangrel.
Explains why he doesn't do promos anymore. Because fuck.
Being all greasy and shit.
But yeah, man, I mean, and now I'm just thinking of Gangrel, by the way. But let's assume that Vince McMahon dies like right now.
Uh-huh.
And who would be left over? Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, and his big-tittied wife,
yeah, it would.
Steph McMahon.
What?
And the question is, could she allow Paul to take over the company? What do you think?
I think, man, I don't know. Those egos are pretty big. I was gonna say
ego thing.
I was gonna say I think so. Just because he's been doing good on NXT and all that shit. But man, those egos.
I mean,
I think it would have a bigger chance if he was married to Shane. Shane would let him do things. Shane seems like a cool guy.
Shane seems like the type of guy that could do right by the company, but is way too either uninvested or, I think more too passive comparatively to Stephanie McMahon to even step over her. And I think Vinnie Mac has maybe just brushed him aside in a lot of respects. I don't think that's even kayfabe. I think that's legit.
That's legit real.
So there's that to consider. So, but let's assume that Triple H doesn't even get the fucking chance to do it. He croaks too. Vinnie Mac dies. Triple H fucking croaks for some reason.
Triple H's quads explode with such force that it kills him.
In fact, this is the scenario. They're both fucking each other, 60-90 like wild men, because clearly Vince McMahon has a crush on men, and clearly Triple H would acquiesce just to keep control.
Yeah.
And so they're 60-90 like madmen, and their quads rip in the midst of their frenzied sexual encounter, and that kills him for some reason. I don't know why, but it does.
Why would that kill him?
And then Stephanie comes in. And then, she damn near has a heart attack when she finds them in the position. But, they tuck that away and hide it and pretend that they're super cool heroes forever.
Yeah.
But she's single now, and she picks you to take over the company. What's a change you would make?
Get rid of freaking Baron Corbin. Get rid of Baron Corbin, Titus. To get rid of all the freaking losers that no one cares about.
Yeah, that's...
Baron, Titus, freaking Mojo. The Colognes, they're still paying them. Just get rid of all the people you never use.
Yeah, that's one thing. I realize it's horrible for people to lose their jobs, but there's people on this fucking roster that are not doing jack shit.
Yeah.
And so that's a great choice. Fuck. I'm sorry, but fuck. The indies are fucking roaring right now.
Yeah.
Go get a job over there. I'm sure they want fucking worldwide over there.
Hell yeah.
Fuck.
Get rid of Titus and Apollo Crews.
The Colognes for damn sure.
Yep.
All those fucking losers. What's that other loser's name? Just fill in a blank because there's a lot of them. But anyway.
Baron?
Kurt Hawkins?
Yeah, get rid of his ass.
Man.
I know people are like, look, I know people like Breezango, But I would get rid of Tyler Breeze and repackage Fandango because I like Fandango.
Yeah, I definitely repackage.
But Tyler Breeze is out.
Like take Fandango out for a long time.
Yeah.
And bring him back with like a new face or something. Because people are not gonna forget that shitty gimmick.
Surgically remove his face.
Yeah, fuck it. He's the faceless man or something.
So
yeah, good choice. Good choice.
Oh man.
I'll tell you what's another good choice.
Uh-huh.
Gotta cut Raw down to an hour, 2 hours. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna go riskier with that and say cut down. But see, that's maybe a little too extreme. But I was gonna say cut down the amount that they wrestle. So that way they could do a little more when they do wrestle. Because here's the thing, they're wrestling like every day, which is why we get that super safe wrestling. So I would just do it kind of like NXT style, smaller venues, only every once in a while. But see, that's a little risky because they make a lot of money on touring. Yeah. So maybe not do that. But yes, cut down Raw. Too long. Way too long. That's a good place to start.
Cut down Raw to the same length as SmackDown, which is 2 hours, which usually comes out to like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So instantly your product improves because they're stretching some of that shit out big time and filling out tons of minutes with bullshit like Titus Worldwide, which nobody gives a fuck about. This, feuds that should have some momentum are completely lost because they're just stretched out for ages over so much time and, weeks on top of that, hours every week. So there's that to consider.
Yeah.
And so, that's one for sure. Cut that down. You know what? Another one I'd do is I'd move all the women from SmackDown, all the women from both rosters to Raw, all the tag teams to SmackDown. That way the field is wide and there's plenty to do with both of them.
Yeah.
Instead of just cutting it in half and having the lamest showdowns.
Because the thing like we got now is basically, like they say, a B show and an A show.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have them be actually different shows?
Yeah,
like having the tag teams on one show and the women on another. That would actually make it different, not just like an inferior version of something.
And it would allow for the women to actually get the time they deserve and have earned, I think, honestly. Because sometimes the women are the best thing going on, and then they stuff them into these 6 women matchups over and over again with the same people. Same with the rosters. Oh man, this guy going against this guy again. Even if they're good, you're like, I've seen this a million times. Let's put them all in one show. The other one's here. So we got Raw with, their roster and their titles, but we also got the women. And then there's SmackDown with their roster and their titles, but they also got all the tag teams. Boom. Instantly more interesting. Maybe even introduce trios.
Yeah.
This intergender thing, the mixed match challenge, though for fun, I think they should probably integrate
I'm not
that.
going to lie. That's actually some of the most energy that's been in that ring in a long time. Sadly.
And you know why? Because there's no fucking pressure
to
be canon, to be legit. I think that's why Braun Strowman works despite how silly he's getting. There's like zero pressure on him. Yeah. And now his stuff is canon, but there's zero pressure on him to be one specific way. He could be deadly serious one week and then just a complete cartoon character no less, the next one. And it works. No pressure.
Yeah.
So
the
mixed match thing has that air that there's no pressure. They're having fun. They're enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, and the crowd really likes it.
The crowd loves it. So why not integrate that in there in a more permanent sense, in some way. Even with the trios thing, that if they introduce trios, one, a new belt, a new interesting division, and on top of that, they could do this intergender swap up there, and on top of that, introducing trios to the mix allows for you to use this roster that you're clearly not going to get fucking rid of, hey, how about integrate them into this? How about Titus Worldwide as a trio? Now they have something to do. Now they're not complete waste of money. And you could put them against another trio with 2 men and 1 woman, and they have something to do. And hey, it's interesting, it's new, it's weird. Lucha Underground has done it, mind you. Their intergender is actually intergender, but
I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. But it would be interesting in WWE to see. So that's a fucking thing.
Yeah.
That would be a way to.
I know this might not be a popular thought, but I would stop the push to make it seem like a real sport. Because it's just corny to me. Like, we know it's fake. We know it's predetermined. Why not go kooky with the storylines? Why not make them a little weird? And no, don't go overboard. Don't go back to the freaking 80s.
Or 90s.
But
early 90s.
Don't go overboard, but do something creative. Like now, we currently have a feud that started because of a ranking on a freaking list.
Which is stupid.
That's been going on for what seems like eons. Like, the reasons for feuds nowadays just suck weenies.
Yeah, they're too grounded in, quote, reality, which, because it's not real, feels all the more fake.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Braun Strowman has proven that you could be a cartoon, but not be to the level of, like fucking early 90s, late 80s stupidity. You could be wild and crazy and out there and still be a legit threat. Same with Matt Hardy, despite how little chance they're giving him to be on screen. He's proven before in TNA that he could do this wild, insane, makes absolutely no sense really if you think about it, bizarro guy, and it could work.
Yeah, I mean, there's space for everything. Because like this current like little build, the way they're building the sports entertainment or sport as it is, it just doesn't lend itself well to characters like Bray Wyatt and shit like that. Like whenever there is something kooky, it's just corny as shit.
You're just getting guys in tights.
Yeah.
So that's fucking interesting.
And
they've done away with the characters.
Yeah.
In the sense that even Finn Balor doesn't even have a character anymore. He's just a fucking guy.
Like, so we're getting better wrestlers and the wrestling's better, but the storylines stink now, with few exceptions. So yeah, I would try to freaking stop pushing the sports shit. Actually call it wrestling for once. Maybe introduce some like kookier out there storylines. But still keep you can do both.
The key is balance, and NXT has shown us that. Because NXT has legitimate athletic fuckers doing their craft and doing it right. Your Garganos, your what's his fucking names? That's right. What's his fucking name? Your Sin Almas, etc.
Yeah.
But they also have a gimmick, or they integrate characters that cross paths with these legitimately athletic people. Aleister Black is both.
Yeah,
he's a gimmick entirely. And also legitimately athletic.
The thing that
Same with what's his fucking name? Velveteen Dream.
The thing that NXT does so well is that even with the characters that aren't like mostly gimmicks, like so like Velveteen Dream or something like that, like with the characters that would be a little, not I'm gonna say lamer, but less interesting to some, they give them good stories. Like Gargano, he's got a good storyline going, and he's freaking badass in the ring, and that's gonna win you over. And then with the weirder characters, you get moments like Velveteen Dream versus freaking Aleister Black, where it's just like, oh shit, because what the gimmicks are, and they don't have much storyline behind them, but they've built them up so much that you're like, all right, this is cool, I'm in. And then that builds the storyline. So yeah, it's interesting ways that they're doing stories over there. Whereas over here, it's just like, oh, this is boring. This is good.
And everything contributes to everything in the sense that there's too many people on the main roster.
Yeah.
Not enough time to contribute to storyline. So another thing that could solve that thing, if you're going to keep all those people in there, you got to do it on an alternating schedule.
Yeah.
1 week, we get this assortment of characters. The next week, we get that assortment of characters. That way, by the third week in the row, when these characters in the first week return, you're ready for their return. You're not blown out on seeing the same match over and over again. They're rested. Their bodies are rested. You're getting your money's worth, and you're getting a lot of storylines and giving them the proper screen time in the right amount of time. So an alternating week of storylines to get everybody in, to get everybody included, to give everybody a chance to make them worth your money that you're paying them, that would be good. And on top of that, it would give them rest that they fucking need
to
get their bodies recuperated. A week's rest between.
Yeah, because like we're seeing a buttload of injuries now.
Too many.
Despite the fact that it is the safest style out there, just the fact that you're doing it so much is insane.
And allowing them that simple little recovery, that little break, could allow them to take bigger risks.
Yeah.
If they have the time to recover, if they have enough resting time, they don't have to perform every fucking single night, basically. That's a big step right there. And again, it goes back to getting the bang for your buck, too. Using everybody. Even the colognes. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck those guys.
I mean, I would get rid of them, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But they're not gonna. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep people as long as they can and then get rid of good ones that you want, which I can't explain.
I have one last one that I would do. I would try to integrate storylines into pay-per-views. Because right now we just have the pay-per-views be, the blowouts or whatever. And rarely do they kind of like expand on the tales, Like we did get it with the Ronda thing on this last one. But for the most part, it's just a match, which is fine. But since they're doing pay-per-views so often now, it would be nice to have a little more storyline in there instead of just the wrestling. And make them feel a little more important. Because as of now, it's just like, woo. Another one.
I think that goes. I think the pay-per-views are being used the way they're always being used, and that's to continue or finish storylines. I think the problem is that in the meantime, they're stretching these things so thin that they become non-storylines.
Yeah, exactly. So when it does end, you're like, eh.
Yeah, a good example would be this Jinder Mahal, Bobby Roode, and Randy Orton thing. What the fuck gives a shit at this point? It's stretched so thin that you can consider it a non-story.
You know what? You're right, because NXT does the same thing that WWE does when it comes to their pay-per-views, but the storylines aren't so drawn out that you don't care.
And they matter.
So they feel important.
And then the way, I know they tape these in bulk, but the way they're shown, they're released to the general audience is on that, alternating week basis. Yeah. Sometimes you see characters a month later after you see them. They could apply the same thing to WWE and have the same effect. It's almost like they're afraid to let go of that one moment where John Cena was popular. Now they're just going to have him every fucking second up there. When they could have the same effect by holding back. The less, the more sometimes,
Yeah, they're going at it the wrong way. They're going at it with, let's never leave the spotlight.
Yeah.
Which is just going to burn people out. Like, I've had several periods where I'm just like, oh, man, I do not care to watch anything wrestling today. Because of how just kind of lame it is sometimes. But if you're right, if you let people go or like you alternate the people or spice it up a little bit, you won't have that.
Yeah.
NXT is always a joy to watch because, like you say, you don't see people for a while. So when they come back, you're like, oh, cool, this person's back. And they always find different people to go up against different people. It never feels like they're just doing the same thing over and over.
There's the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And that definitely goes for characters that you're seeing way too much of. And then on top of that, they frustrate you by not giving you what you want from the characters. And on purpose.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not going the right way that you want it to. Sometimes that happens. That's life. But it's that they know that you want. Yeah. There's no way they don't know. Everybody's booing Roman Reigns and they insist on pushing him.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And there's ways to do that, right? I would say Lucha Underground does that great in that, first season, second season even, you'll see characters that you like never win. Like the Mac, he never won until that one time he won, and you're like, hell yeah! And it's satisfying. And here it's just like, nope, let's just have this guy lose forever until you don't give a shit about him.
Yep.
Or let's just have this other guy win forever until you never give a shit about him ever again. Roman style. It's just like, it's not good. There's a way to do it, and they're not doing it well.
They are very conscious of the internet fans being vocal about things, and sometimes it's obvious from the dialogue that they have the characters say that they're very conscious of what's going on online. And the fact that they go against that so often on purpose and then rub your face in it
and never pay it off.
Yeah. Is a problem, which, what do you say to that? You just get frustrated sometimes. You want to throw in the towel. Sometimes you do. But anyway, another change I would make, this is my final contribution, is I would make ECW a show. One, it would allow for a lot of people to go to a roster where they could be appreciated. That's one. Because 205, despite it improving, it still feels like a show that kind of doesn't exist, except for a very small, subset of people. Well, that could be good. And ECW is that kind of show. A show that exists for a certain subset of people. And I'm sure if they did it, and they did it the right way, without the fucking egos of the McMahons getting in the way, it could be a show that could return in its own form. It will give Paul Heyman something to do as the de facto commissioner. And it would give a roster of talented people something to do on their own terms, in their own way, in a very distinct style, and it would cater to an audience that they're not catering to. They literally have a demand. Supply it. You have the fucking roster upon roster upon roster of people to fill up a completely different show.
Yeah.
Do it. The demand is there. Do it.
I would say if they ever did that, though, they would have to keep it completely separate, not do the... You know what I mean? Like, people that are in Raw and SmackDown shouldn't show up on ECW unless they're put there.
I disagree in the sense that to fill up the roster in its original get-go, there could be drafts going that way.
Yeah, the draft is fine, but once they're in there...
Yeah, NXT should still be treated as the stepping stone to any of these fields. And that could be a particular type of wrestling show that a certain type of person would fit in perfectly into. There's certain characters in NXT that you see now that aren't going to make it on the main roster because they're not corny enough, because they're not general audience enough, because you don't want them to go to waste on something like 205 Live. Again, not a criticism against it. It just still hasn't gained that steam to make it something that resonates as much yet. Hopefully it will. But it could be a home for them, the people that you don't want to see go to waste.
Yeah.
As many have already. So that would be a good solution. An alternative, a mature alternative that people want and that would provide a home for a certain type of wrestler. So you would cover the entire fucking spectrum right there. You would literally become more of a monopoly. It's not what you want, WWE? Anyway, I'm going to go kill Paul Levesque and Vince.
Yep.
And then never bone Stephanie because she might break my penis.
Oh.
And then run this fucking company.
Get my weenie broken. I don't mind.
To the ground. But anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. The second they implement any of our strategies, instant failure, financial collapse.
That's all right. We tried.
Yep.
In our minds. Anyway, as Ahab, that's the Goontick. And this has been a ramble.
Bringing companies
and a
down.
Rant. Hit like, share, subscribe with the notification buttons. So we're out.